football lovers, as a nation, even though the footballing world, what would we make of it? And I'm saying that because it did happen in Spain, didn't it? Where,
Mm.
with the Spanish coach. And when that happened, he destroyed his career basically. It did. It
He's
was a
been banned, isn't he, for 2 or 3
yeah,
years, I think.
yeah,
Yeah,
it has.
yeah.
It has been banned. And I look at that and I'm thinking, should I say something? Should we say something? Should we just let it slide? And I think the best thing would be just to let it slide. Because it's very controversial, isn't it? A female to a female, no problem. A
Yeah.
male to a female, there's a problem. What if it was a female coach in the Premier League and he does that to a male player in the Premier League? Would we still get the same level of, outrage like we had it? We do.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting question, isn't it? Because I don't believe, I can't think of any female coaches or assistant coaches in the Premier League. There probably are some people, second or third in line to the main coach, the main manager or whatever.
Right.
But yeah, that's a good question. If it
It
happened the
is.
other way, you would have to say that, a male footballer probably wouldn't object. I don't think many guys would object to a woman in being thrilled at the goal is scored or the result, just expressing that in a quick kiss. But having said that, I guess a male footballer would still have the right to say, hang on a minute, that's not part of the deal. And I don't really think it would happen. I
Mm.
mean, what you'd have to say is that the one combination you missed out was male to male.
Right. Yeah.
But of course, I'm sure I'm right in saying this. I've seen Pep Guardiola kiss some of his footballers after. He's such a tactile guy, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's warm. He's great. So and he goes around all the team and a lot of the opposition saying well done and giving them a bit of a hug. As did Klopp. Jurgen Klopp was the same. He was very tactile too. And I
Wow.
actually think the men players, for the most part, like that. Because what we're touching on here, in a sense, is the sensibilities of women, the sensibilities of men. I think most people, most right-thinking people, on what the Spanish fellow did, and in some sense, you could almost have a bit of sympathy for him if he has really destroyed his career. He's certainly lost a lot of credibility for what he did, and he had to stand down from his role and all that. It was over the top. There's no question about that.
Mm.
Even if one can feel a slight sympathy in the moment, he just, did something he really shouldn't have done. But
Yeah.
actually, from the male perspective, I think we, probably with good reason, we have to be much more careful, not just in sport, but in our dealings with women, with females generally. Whereas one could be instinctively a bit tactile. Nowadays, you have to say, hang on a minute, I shouldn't go on just tapping someone on the shoulder or saying, well done. We have to think about it, even if we, in that instant, decide, but actually, I know this person quite well, blah, 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 no problem. But we do have to think in a way that I suspect women don't have to think. The
Right.
fairer sex, the fairer
Yeah.
gender, it's much
Right.
more acceptable for women to do those things. And in a way, I suppose I can see why they are the gender, the species, that part of the species which tend to rear the children. They carry the children at first and they rear them.
Yeah.
And therefore, they're almost bound to be. More maternal,
Yeah.
and that means that a warm, tactile, looking after, hugging, cuddling. Whereas paternal, yeah, you can still. I think we should be able to be tactile. I'd say I'm a fairly tactile person.
Yeah.
I seem to remember when you and I first met.
Yeah.
we did a man hug, didn't we? Bit of a
We did. Yeah. We did.
bit of a bromance there, sort of
Yeah. Yeah.
love at
Yeah. We
first
did.
sight and all that. We
Yeah.
did, and I
Yeah.
like that. I think
Yeah.
it's a key part of being male. Too often, us males as kids are taught, oh no, you don't hug, you don't, big boys don't cry. Well, actually, big boys do cry, and that we're going right off subject here, I know, but and you bring that to the football world, and yeah, you just have to be careful. So I think the Spanish chap, a little bit of sympathy for him, but he was over the top. So yeah, you said what happens if it was a female to a male? That would be a very interesting scenario, wouldn't it?
What?
If that happened the other way around, if a woman coach did kiss, again, I suppose it's like the Spanish thing. It depends. It would depend on the degree
Yeah.
of the kiss. I mean, he sort of grabbed her head, didn't he, and sort
Yeah.
of
He did.
pushed himself in and gave her he plonked one on her lips, I think, which
Yeah.
was clearly over the top. If he'd just, I don't know, a bit of a hug and a kiss on the side of the head, I don't
Yeah.
think he would have got into such trouble. But very interesting point to make. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. It just brings up the question of, how far can players and referee and the managers go. I've seen players call the goal, and they go onto the manager, and they just jump on the manager.
Yeah. Yeah.
The legs actually off the ground, wrapped around the manager.
Mm.
Now, in a female setting, that would be allowed within a female and a female. Would it be allowed within a male and a female? I mean, who makes the rules? I don't know. I'm just thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose a lot would depend on, because obviously in the course of the week when the players are training, and of course there are women involved in the coaching and the fitness and the nutrition in most clubs, I expect. So there is. I noticed when at Palace, because we're quite close to the front, when they're all walking out and the teams are coming out, there's a couple of the physio girls who are walking along with one or two of the players who are on the bench, things like that.
Yeah.
So they're very involved. And I suppose what we don't see is what happens during the week. If they must all develop a closeness and, the hug, whatever. So if that happened and we saw it on television, again, it might look a bit unlikely, but it may be what they're used to. And as I say, it depends on the degree of it, doesn't it? If it's a bit too intimate, I think you're asking for trouble.
Yeah, well, let's hope we get that right in time. But anyway.